Their jail cell, a porta potty, and a smelly one at that. Conditions of their incarceration, that they walk in feces-encrusted and urine-soaked rugs, that they have no shower, no water, that they eat the old bread, onions, and ketchup sandwich. And their fine? $10,000 times 4,200 people. And by the way, that includes the crew members who literally prevented an all-out mutiny. With me is Matt Cruzen, who with his wife was a passenger on the Carnival Triumph. He plans to sue Carnival in a class action lawsuit. He joins us from Oklahoma City. And also with us, Michael Winkleman, Matt's attorney. All right, Matt, you were a Marine. How bad was it?
Conditions were pretty bad. Everything you said so far was very accurate. At the beginning, when the fire broke out at 5:30 in the morning, everybody scrambled to the mustard stations and really didn't know what was going on.
Did they tell you, Matt? Did they tell you that there was a fire?
Not initially, but you could smell the smoke bellowing through the hallways.
All right. So, do you think the ship was prepared for even the possibility of this happening?
That's really why I came on, is because I don't think that they were well prepared. Their history shows that they're blatantly negligent to implement contingency plans to ensure passenger safety.
All right, and so what happened to those individuals who were, you know, in wheelchairs, the elderly? I understand that a woman cracked her head, an elderly a senior citizen, that someone broke her ankle and her foot was hanging from her leg. I mean, did you see all this, Matt?
I did. I saw the, I felt bad for the young children, the babies who, were on a limited supply of diapers. I also heard that they were rationing out the diapers that they had on board.
Right.
The elderly were pretty much stuck wherever they were at, with no way of getting anywhere, and people would just bring them food.
Yeah. All right, Michael, I'm going to go to you. Now, you represent Matt. What is the basis of his claim, and can you really expect to recover given the fact that, there is limited liability pursuant to the ticket?
Sure. First, good evening, Your Honor. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me back. And Matt and all of the people like him, the 3,000 passengers, absolutely have a right to file a claim. It's essentially, Your Honor, a combination of a negligent infliction of emotional distress claim and an intentional infliction of emotional distress claim. And they're difficult and unique claims under the law.
Okay, but you need to show physical injury, don't you? For all the people who suffered the stress of walking through this feces-encrusted carpets, fighting over food, the mess, that's emotional trauma. Is that recoverable?
It absolutely is, Judge, and you're flat out correct. You're talking about the zone of danger test, and in some jurisdictions it does require a physical manifestation. And from what I've heard and what I've seen, and I think the evidence is ultimately going to show from the facts, that all of these people have a right to recover under the law for both negligent infliction of emotional distress and intentional infliction of emotional distress.
What do you think this was intentional? Why would you say intentional?
I do, and Judge, I think you were hitting the nail on the head. It was about putting profits over people's safety, and the big thing being, when they were 150 miles away from Mexico, they intentionally decided to go 500 miles away back to the United States for money. So instead of getting these people off of the ship, they intentionally decided to drag them across the Gulf of Mexico for 5 grueling, awful days, and really subjected them to these awful, deplorable conditions.
And you know what? When you add to the fact that for 5 extra days, people had to plan or weren't able to plan for babysitters, pet sitters. You get your check stolen in the mail. You have to pay a bill.
They couldn't work.
You get
They're
interest
losing
and
wages.
penalty. I mean, $500 doesn't cover any of that.
None of it. I've called it laughable, and I think that's a valid statement, and I know Matt feels the same way about it. It's really almost insulting. Why does Carnival get to arbitrarily pick a number out of thin air as to what they think is fair for this? The way that it should be, Judge, and I know you believe this too, is a jury should ultimately decide how much is a fair and just compensation for exactly what was done.
I agree.
To the people like Matt.
Matt and Michael, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you.
All right. And later, they're each accused of killing their loved ones.